And hi there, welcome to the Red October Network. Thank you for watching. Happy 600 videos. And as you may have noticed, I've been on a little bit of a hiatus for the videos. We've been stuck at 600 for some time. I just wanted to say that, life has been kind of busy here in Pittsburgh between schoolwork and job work and job searching and paper writing and everything. It has been exhausting. I haven't really had time to come here and talk here on the Red October Network, but I'm back, so we're going to try to do as many videos as possible. Anyways, as you may have noticed, and actually known, you probably know that yesterday or 2 days ago was election day. And so you know that Obama won, and there was a lot of things that went on. Now, I'm not going to get too political. I'm trying to really avoid having to discuss things of a political nature here on the Red October Network. I think it's basically really like bad, because everybody just argues about things. But nonetheless, I want to talk about a couple things about Obama and what the election means. First of all, I will say this. You notice how I always post videos about gold and silver, and I will say this. A lot of companies and a lot of people right now, I think, are going to start to invest in gold and silver. Why is that? Well, you take a look at it. Obama's policy has always been to go out and create debt. With debt, you print money and you issue that. That's basically government debt. So the Fed's been printing money. I think it's to the tune of $40 billion. I think it's $40 billion a day, actually, where they're actually printing all this money. Now, with the money being printed comes inflation. I can tell you this right now, that we're probably going to see a lot of inflation coming in, because Obama and Ben Bernanke are going to print a lot of money. So right now, you should, if you have free money, instead of spending on an iPhone or an iPad or anything like that, spend it on silver. Get some American Eagles. I just bought a batch of them. It is a good idea generally. It's a good investment, but you probably saw that even though the Dow Jones Industrial Average and NASDAQ tanked today, you'll notice that the price of gold and silver went up. So that's one thing that's definitely something to consider. I will say this too, that in terms of getting a job, it is going to be as hard as ever to get a job and to get something in your field. Obviously, with all the college loans being put into place and all the college loan debt, a lot of people are really screwed right now. And you got to really consider that, because the current regime wants to keep telling people to go to college and keep getting higher education. Well, meanwhile, we don't really have jobs to justify it. So people are thinking that the college bubble is going to burst. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. Under an Obama administration, the college bubble is never going to burst. They're just going to continue issuing money as long as there is a difference between the marginal earnings of a high school degree versus a college degree. It's still going to be different. And I can tell you this right now, nobody has just $20,000 in college loan debt. A lot of people have, like me, they have almost $200,000 in college loan debt. So that's something really important, because I think there's a lot of a view that there's no benefit to it. I know that people have been saying, oh, you should just send your hypothetical kids to trade school and they'll be fine. It's not necessarily the truth. I do the Amy Winehouse and say, no, don't. No, bad idea. And I'll say this, that if you send your kid to trade school, he or she must be interested in learning a trade. A lot of kids nowadays, frankly, aren't interested in much of anything. So, not to rant on it or anything, but we need people of all majors, all abilities, all talents. College doesn't teach you talents or skills. College teaches you knowledge. And there's a subtle difference between the two. I think, too, that with Obama, I know that people have been saying about Obamacare, and people have been trying to rationalize it. I'm on Obamacare. I was up until I was 26. And there's a thought that says, well, if you're 26 and you're still living in your parents' house. Well, there's a lot of us out there who are that way. But, you know, I gotta tell you something. I assume responsibility for myself. You should assume responsibility for your own damn job. If you can't get a job, you have to learn new skills. You have to get new things. You just have to do it. It's nothing debatable. It might not be a master's degree or a PhD. You know, there's people who have PhDs working at Starbucks as a barista, you know, in the bullshit bingo game that we always do. But you know what? It's the truth. You have to do what you have to do, and it's really, to me, with college, it's mostly about learning something. And it's not about getting job skills. I honestly do think in this society today that we should go back to when we had aptitude tests and the government decided where you went to school and what you learned. We got away from that because it was freedom robbing. But with the amount of debt that's there and the fact that any time now Obama could say unpaid college debt, you have to serve in the military, you have to serve in the Peace Corps. He could just say that and you'd be stuck with it. I don't have loans. I mean, this is my college loan. This is the house. That's it. And I feel bad for those of you who may have not gone through that, and you know, if you have the federal loans, I don't know why you would have them. I mean, I've always been a proponent of somebody besides the government should finance your college. I mean, honestly, it would limit the number of kids coming in, and I got hell on it on some other forums for saying because I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth and everything, which I wasn't, but college to me should be a closed society. It should not be for everyone. In fact, it should be for the few. The rest of the people should, after high school, go into the work world. It's not going to create an elitist thing. I can tell you this right now. I wish I hadn't gone to college. I honestly do, because I'm not doing any better. I mean, I have my geography degree, which is an environmental studies degree, semi-environmental science almost. It's about 9/10 of the way there. But you have to think about it. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do to get there. And, you know, and to be honest with you, if college is going to be a drain on the economy, then we have to close the colleges. And yeah, we can send kids to vocational school, but there is just a huge underclass being created. And that's another topic I'd like to discuss. I think I voted for Romney, so I disagreed with Obama's politics and the fact that when I was in campus weather service, I knew how to run or be an executive. And the traits I see in Obama were a lot like the traits of the people who weren't elected over again. And I will say this too, with companies especially, that you have to, I mean, companies should go back to when they would train people and people were loyal, and you know, it wasn't all about adding a few extra pennies to the profits. We have created an elite in this country that is way up here. We've created an underclass. You can see the seeds being sown of it. You know, where we made the middle class disappear, and that's been a topic. And we don't necessarily need to have just the stockholders be happy. We also need to have people who work hard, like me, who want to get a job. They started at the bottom and they worked their way up, and now everybody's overqualified to work at McDonald's, and they're barista at Starbucks, and they're basket weavers, and not even the military is hiring anymore. Everybody says, oh, the military is hiring. Well, no, they're cutting back because we can't afford to have a large military. They do train well, but you have to be built for it. Most kids today would not fit in the military from what I know of the military. And I have to say that, you know, we're going to have people who just are plain unemployable in this society. You know, we have high school dropouts making $100,000 a year. We have PhDs who are janitors. And it all comes down to your people skills. I mean, resumes nowadays with all the applicant tracking systems and such, you can never get an interview unless you know somebody in the company. And I think that's unfair because a lot of times college students don't really know anybody. So, and I know, talking to my mom, who's an executive at a Fortune 500 company, she says, oh, it's just because nobody's hiring anybody. But here she's doing two people's jobs and really kind of, you know, saving the company a little bit of coin. So does that go back to the welder's certificate? You know, I don't know. I wouldn't trust a lot of kids nowadays with that kind of stuff. But I also think too that we have to have young people who can make some money. There are a few of us who are making $50,000, $60,000 a year, but there's a lot more of us who are only making $20,000 a year. And there's a misconception that still to this day that older people think that college students want to start out at the top. Not true. Most of them can't even get in on the bottom. And that is the truth. You know, college, you know, everybody says, oh, kids feel entitled nowadays and they can't be told no, and they can't be told you're a loser. Well, look yourself in the mirror. You're the ones in the 90s who said to these kids that they weren't a loser. So it's your own damn fault. Anyways, I will say that, you know, this is about as political as I get with the rant. I do think if you are a young person between the ages of 16 and 30, or 16 and 35 especially, you were born in the 80s, you have to be on the ball. You have to be dialed up because this job market is not going to get better. In fact, it's going to get worse. I've often said to people that, you know, all the professions now that can be done overseas will be done overseas. There'll be the next great wave of outsourcing and offshoring. It'll be the accountants, it'll be the engineers, it will be anything that can be done on the computer. There'll be 6 or 7 people, or 6 or 7 CEOs who run a company of 50,000 Indian call center people. And it's the truth. There will be another great wave of outsourcing. And most of corporate America will deny it because they don't want to have to pay for it. Obama would be good, and the government would be good if they started putting taxes on the companies who ship jobs overseas. And it should be very restrictive. And people say, well, then they'll just relocate overseas. Well, it's almost impossible to do that. You have to have a presence here in the United States in order to reap the benefits of it, in my opinion. And that's something that's very important. And, you know, everybody's going to be sour grapes because I'm saying, oh, the accountants, you're just jealous because they get paid $200 an hour. But I bet you could pay an accountant $4 an hour in India. Civil engineer, electrical engineer makes $90,000. Why not have the blueprints drawn up and sent to Mumbai where they can pay somebody $5,000 or $10,000? They're much better workers. They're much easier. They know English. They know multiple languages. Now you can see where I'm going. The accountants, too expensive in this country. We can send, a lot of the number crunching can be done for $2 an hour in India. And they'll continue to do this, no matter what happens. I think that's important to mention. Will this outsourcing stop and offshoring? No. We may be in a society where the trades and manual labor, and stuff that absolutely cannot be done elsewhere, will still be here. But the problem is with it was when everybody knows how to turn a pipe or install a switch, then those wages will crash. Of course, there will always be the people up high, but for the rest of us, you'll see that there will be the 99% and the 1% and a huge divide in between. And so, if you're an American, you should fear where this country is going. You should. And it's not just Obama, it's everybody. We have created a society where it is just basically, where we value so much the ability to make 2 or 3 more pennies on the dollar that there's no jobs left. And as a college-educated person, you should be worried, because college education is very offshoreable. It is. Because it's the way it is. And if you have a trades education, your job is very easily replaced by H-1Bs, which is another story. We're still letting in people with H-1Bs. And that'll be my final point, and I'll say this with the H-1Bs. Think about it this way. The United States is like a huge party. There's only so much beer, and there's only so much room. Once the beer runs out, you can't invite any more people into the party, because people who paid the cover are going to get pissed. And you're inviting the Indians to come in and drink when all us Americans are drinking the beer. So we can't bring them in. And that's the truth. And I'm sorry if you think this is land of opportunity, but it isn't. So, anyways, I'm going to leave that there. Leave your comments on this video, and hope you like it. I'll be around. Leave your comments, and thank you for the check I bought. I got my present here. This is my Hayden Panettiere card for the AdSense dollars. So thank you for watching those ads here on the Red October Network. So, alright, see you guys later.